Did you know it's actually a good thing to be blackpilled about this world? Did you know that? Even Solomon became blackpilled about everything in this life. That's true. Did you know that? Solomon, King Solomon, who is described as the wisest man in the world, became blackpilled about everything in this world. Oh, yes, he did. And I'm going to show you a little bit of his description of how he felt. Now, Ecclesiastes chapter 2, starting verse 1. Now, just a little bit of a background. And Solomon describes in here, this man, he didn't have the average experience that everyone has, okay? He had literally everything that you could want in this life. Okay? He had all the money, the silver, and the gold, and the land, and the property, and all these other things, and entertainment. Everything. And he tells you how he felt after it all. I said in mine heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure. And behold, this is also vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works. Listen to what he did. I builded me houses. I planted me vineyards. I made me gardens and orchards. I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. Solomon had the greatest homestead you could ever have. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions and great and small cattle, above all that were in Jerusalem before. He had gardens, fruit, animals for meat and milk. I gathered me also silver and gold. He didn't even have fiat currency. He had real money, silver and gold. And the peculiar treasures of kings and of the provinces. I got me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. He had music. He had entertainment. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Before he was greater than any king before him. Also my wisdom remained with me. Also was very wise. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. Had whatever he wanted. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my portion of all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. How in the world did that happen? He had everything you could ever want. Everything you could want he had, but then he said it was vanity, worthless, vexation of spirit. And I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do that which cometh after the for what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath already been done. What would someone do after that king, after he had done all that? They couldn't do anything new. He'd already done it all. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceived also that one event happeneth to them all, to the fool and to the wise. Then I said in my heart, as it happeneth to the fool, so it happeneth even to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart that this is also vanity. Anything can happen in this life, whether you're a fool or wise. Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity, for there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever. Seeing that which now is in the days to come shall all be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? As the fool. Same way. Both go to the same place. From dust they came, from dust they will return. Therefore, what does he say? I hated life Because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. That's very nihilistic, actually, to say it's all worthless. It's all vain. There's no point in anything. And I hated life. He was blackpilled. Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. I'm just going to leave it all to someone else. And who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? I don't know. If he's going to be a fool, he'll come along and destroy everything that I had. He's going to ruin it all. So what's the point? Why am I even doing any of this? Yet shall ye have rule over all my labor, wherein I have labored. I did all this work, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. It's all vanity. He saw the futility of it all. Well, I worked my whole life and I got all this stuff and I enjoyed everything and then I built all this, but then I will die and then, well, what's going to happen to all this stuff? Who knows? Who knows what will happen? And so what's the point? Solomon had everything. And yet, after all that, he said he hated life and it was all vanity. Talk about blackpilled. I mean, he was absolutely blackpilled about everything in this life. For all these things, he's like, I hated life. It was all vanity. What's the point of all this? So think about this, okay? I want you to think about this after having read that. You became blackpilled because you saw the truth of how corrupt the world is and where it's heading. Solomon became blackpilled on the other extreme end of the spectrum. Solomon lived in a time of peace. He didn't have to war against other enemies. Solomon lived in a time of peace with enormous prosperity. It was as close to utopian as possible. And yet, he said it was all vanity, worthless. How is that possible? I'll tell you. When your hope or happiness is connected to the things of this world, you will forever be blackpilled. Let me say that again. When your hope or happiness is connected to the things of this world, you will forever be blackpilled no matter what happens. Whether you obtain the things of this world or whether you do not. Whether you change the world for the better or whether it becomes worse. If your hope and happiness is attached to any of those things, eventually the blackpilling will come. You will see the vanity. Because look at how he even became that way when he had everything. Right? Because you think about it, if you're upset because you see the truth of the world and how corrupt everything is, you want to try to make things better. You want to work towards a better world, a better society, changing things, more justice and prosperity and things that are good. And then when that doesn't happen, you get upset, get blackpilled. But Solomon had all that. It was good, prosperous, free. No war. But he still was blackpilled. So you're thinking, think about it in your mind. You're thinking, well, if I just make the world better and better and better, then I'll feel better. Well, you're going to get any better than what Solomon had in his time? You're going to get any better than that? Because the danger was still there. Because your hope and happiness is tied together with the things of this life. Solomon finally came to his senses, and the book of Ecclesiastes documents his journey into prosperity and repentance. Okay? So, a lot of people don't understand that. They see that, Solomon had all this stuff. He went astray because he had a bunch of wives that, by the way, the Bible told him he shouldn't have had. It says kings are not supposed to multiply wives unto themselves. But he backslid. He went away from God. And he messed up. But the book of Ecclesiastes, if you read it, is after he had all this stuff. It's written after he had all the money and he built everything and he had everything that he could want. After he has all that, he says it's all vanity. That's his repentance, looking back on all of that in his life and saying this was vanity. Here's the truth of the situation. So if you don't understand that, Ecclesiastes is Solomon's repentance from after what you read about Solomon. Okay? But anyways, it documents his journey from prosperity to repentance. And here is what Solomon said was the most important thing in life at the end of it all. Okay? So this is a man. Think about it. He had everything. Absolutely everything that you could ever want. And this is what he says is the most important thing in life at the end of it all. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. That is the conclusion that Solomon comes to after his entire life and after having everything that you could ever want in this life. He says, this is the most important thing. Fear God, keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of man. Wow. Notice, Solomon does not mention anything about money, property, prosperity, entertainment, freedom, or any of those types of things in this life. None of it. He does not mention any of it. Solomon said the number one thing you should be concerned with in this life is your relationship with God. That is what he said. This isn't someone talking about something they don't have experience with. Okay, Mr. Big Shot, you think you've lived up your life and you've done this and you've done that. I can almost guarantee you haven't even come close to doing what Solomon has done in life. Experienced what he's experienced. And he said, hey, I came out the other end of this stuff, and the number one thing you should be concerned about is your relationship with God. Because all this other stuff, I've done it all. I've done everything. And at the end I said, it's vanity. What was the point of that? At the end of the day, at the end of life, it truly is vanity in comparison with spiritual things, especially your relationship with God. He said it's the number one thing. He said the reason you should be concerned about your relationship with God is that you will be held accountable to him one day for everything you have ever done. Right? Because that's what it says. It says, for God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing. Even when no one's looking, God sees it, whether it be good or whether it be evil. God will judge it. He said the reason you should be concerned about your relationship with God is you will be held accountable to him one day for everything you've ever done. When you stop to consider that reality, everything in this life, in this world, is vanity in comparison. That's really what happens. If you really stop to consider that reality, that God, you will face God one day. You will personally be held accountable by God for your life. And if you could fast forward all the way to the end, pretend you've already lived your life, you die, you stand before God, think about how you would feel in that moment. And now it's time to talk to God about how you spent all your time on this earth. Imagine in that moment. Now, think about this. Think about that moment. Now, think about everything in this life that you're chasing and thinking about and you're worried about and concerned about, and compare it, everything, every single thing to that one moment. And you start to see what is really important and what is truly vanity. When we stand before God in the day of judgment, everything that mattered so much in this world will mean nothing. And so to be blackpilled about this world is good. If the next step is your focus turning to God and the things of eternity. It's not good to just be blackpilled about this world and then nothing after that. Well, then you're just going to be depressed and hopeless and all this stuff. I don't want you to feel that way. I don't want that to happen. That's not good. But if you're blackpilled about everything in this world and you say, I don't have hope for anything good in this world. I'm not attached to this world. I don't get my happiness from anything in this world. If you're blackpilled in that way, great. If the next step is turning to God and the things of eternity. Say, hey, you know what? This life is vanity. The things of this life. The things that everyone is concerned about. And they're so desperate to do something about and to change the things in this world. All those things are not going to matter in the day of judgment. It's not going to matter when I stand before God. And so it's okay to be blackpilled about this life if after that you are making the number one concern in your life, the number one concern, your relationship with God and the things of eternity, the things, spiritual things beyond this material world, beyond the five senses. That is the reality that you will have to deal with for all of eternity. It's the most important thing. We should not have our hope dependent on the future of this world. How's the future of this world looking? Not good. And that's okay. You shouldn't have your hope wrapped up in the future of this world. We should not have our happiness dependent on the future of this world. Not hope or happiness. If you are you going to say, well, if I don't make these changes in this world, if I don't make political changes to this world and vote the right people in and change this and change that about this world, then I'm not going to be happy. Well, I hate to break it to you, you're not going to be happy. You should not have your happiness dependent on the future of this world, because guess what? It's going to go in a bad direction. You don't even understand. You can't even begin to comprehend how it is not going to get better. So you shouldn't have your hope or happiness dependent on the future of the world. This life is vanity. This world is corrupt. And it's all going to burn. That's right. It is. I'm not trying to be negative or a doomer. I'm talking Bible talk. It's all going to burn. It says right here, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burned up. It's all going to burn. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. It's all going to burn. So why do you have your hope and happiness wrapped up in a bunch of stuff that's going to burn? It's going to pass away over and over and over again. It's going to burn. It's going to pass away. If you want to learn more about that, there is a future event of this world called the conflagration of creation. That's the name of the message I did. Go back and watch that. It's all about how everything's going to burn, and all the verses all about that. It's very detailed, very specific, very plain that it teaches that. That's going to happen. And so why would we have our hope and happiness wrapped up in something that's going to burn? It doesn't make any sense.